done. I mean, those definitions are spot on. Those definitions are spot on. Okay? So thank you very much for bailing me out of those definitions. So tonight, this afternoon, we are looking at something that will help every one of us. So investors now are wiser, investors now are smarter, and investors now have a lot of options. And for us as realtors, we have to be smarter, wiser, and we need to, at every point in time, we need to know better than the people we are selling to, especially in the area. This is our core area of land. And if you don't know better, I mean, you can't be having a conversation with an investor, for instance, that's okay, I want to buy maybe 1 acre from you, 2 acres from you, and you don't have all the right information, you don't know, you don't have the right content. That person has the cash, and there are so many options that the person can take that cash to. But if you don't give the investor the right information, he will just walk away and go somewhere else with the cash that is available with him or her, with the investor. Okay, so we need, as realtors, we need to be smarter. So there are some things I'm going to be sharing with us today. I mean, we've had situation where somebody wants to build a school, and a realtor said, okay, come and buy a particular location. And for someone I want to see, because as realtors, we are actually consultants. We need to have that at the back of our mind. So a buyer assumes that he knows what he wants, but it's our responsibility to always give those realtors, the investors, what they actually need, not what they want. Okay, that is our responsibility, because ultimately they will realize that, okay, their needs and their wants are not the same thing. So the person said he wants to buy that location because the location is cheap. So for that investor, that location is a want, but that's not what the investor needed. I'm just using that to set a solid foundation in the next 5 minutes. That's not what that investor need. So as a consultant, you now need to open that person up to possibilities and say, see, this is actually what you want, but I believe because of your objective, this is actually what you need. So take, for instance, now, location A is going to take the next 15 years for location A from your own projection for a particular location to develop. And location B, people are already living there. And because location A is cheaper, the investor will want to buy it, but the person wants to use it for school. You know that as a realtor, yes, even if the person buys that location, you are going to get your commission, you are going to make your money, but it means, I mean, in the next 5 years, that place, you and I know that place, no development will show up. But what you have basically done is that you have earned that commission, but you have lost that customer. You have earned the commission, but you have lost that customer. And you have not just lost that customer, you have lost that customer forever. That's just the reality. You have lost the customer forever. The customer is never going to come back. Is never going to come back. So the other thing that you need to know is that there are things every realtor needs to know, say, and do. There are things you need to know, there are things you need to say, there are things you need to do. Investors are not just thinking of how to trap their money. A lot of people have bought properties 10 years ago. Today, they can't even ask, they don't even know where the property is. I'm talking from, I was just talking to somebody last week. She bought a particular project and he was not happy. The place not, I said, see, this place you bought is literally land banking. That you need to give this place another 5 to 10 years. I said, no, but they told me no. So thinking about that, I said, see, realtors have misguided this person. That's just the truth. And now this person now has a lot of money, wants to pump it in that place. And I told the person, see, if you pump this money here, what you have just basically done is that you have trapped your cash. And one thing that we all need to know as realtors is this. See, land is the cost of land, right, is what changes when it comes to construction. Literally everything from foundation all is the same. Whether you are building in eyebrow area, in where the rent is $1 million or where the rent is 1 million naira, basically is cost of construction from I want to say the neck up is from what the foundation up is the cost of land. So land is what actually carries the value. Somebody go to the chat room and type land is what carries the value. Just go to the chat room. I want to know whether you are with me. Type land is what actually carries the value. For those of us that are just joining us, I make an announcement earlier. This Saturday, we are going for site inspection at Farm Plus Agbawa Ikorodu by 8 a.m. So the link will be shared in all our community. Thank you very much, Imileyin Kazim. Land is what carries the value. Yes, land is what carries the value. And if time permits us today, I'm going to touch on quite a number of things. And I need us, just follow me. If you can write. I don't think the recording of this session is going to be made available. And there are things I'll be sharing that you will wish that you write them down. Okay? So thank you very much. Land is what carries the value. Patient Oji, thank you very much. Okay, so investors are looking for flexibility. Investors are looking for flexibility. They don't just want to tie the cash down. Stanley Olise said, land na the cocoa. Yes, you are right. Land na the cocoa. So they don't just want to tie their cash down. They don't want to tie their cash down. Okay, so develop a plan for your customers to cash out. You need to do that, and if you don't do that, they will go somewhere else. Let me give you options, because as realtors, we need to know that our investors have options. Any investor that has 100 million right now can be getting 20% on bond every year, as in 20% on bond, and it's federal government bond, and that one is guaranteed. In as much as that government is in existence for the next 5 or 10 years, depending on the duration of the bond, the person will be getting 20%. So investors have options. There are alternatives. One crypto guy can collect the money and be giving them stupid money. Of course, those ones are not safe anyway. You understand? So I'm just trying to let us know that options are available. In fact, not only options are an alternative. If they don't buy from me, they will buy from somebody else. In the early days of when we started real estate about over almost 13 years ago now, you can literally count out the number of real estate companies. But today, everywhere, the first time we had a seminar in Port Harcourt, all the number of real estate companies in Port Harcourt was not up to 10. I'm talking about 2014, 2015. They were not even up to 10. In fact, some people were just coming up. Some of the formulas, most of them are using now, we developed it. And they copied it and they are running with it. But that's not where we are going. I'm just telling you that they have options. So you need to develop a plan. You need to develop a plan. And I'm going to be rushing right now. So in case, just try to write it down, or you have the opportunity to watch the video. So you need to develop a plan, a cash out plan for your investor. And that is very, very important. That's really what you need to know, understand, own it. And then you can transfer it or use it to close sales or use it to educate your investors so that they can buy. Because there are some of us that are probably listening to me right now. Somebody has bought land from you and they are not coming back to buy. And you know that these people have money. They are not coming back. Why are they not coming back? Because they feel that their cash, what they gave to you the last time, what they bought, is just tied down. So how do you overcome some of these challenges? But before we go into that, we need to understand that there are 7 stages every land go through. 7 stages. Number 1 is that there are stage 1 is the stage where the land does not have owner. Somebody should type it in the chat room. No owner stage. Stage 1, when the land does not have owner. See, all this land that people are killing themselves fighting war. There was a time there was no owner, no occupant, nothing. That's the truth. Okay? Stage 1 is when it does not have owner. So please, I need response so that I want to be sure you can hear me. So that's why I'm asking you to go to the chat room and type. Stage 2 is when settlers move to the land. Maybe they send them away, they pursue them from their current settlement, and they move to a particular place. Talking about the olden days and all of those things. They move to a particular location and they start settling there. Most of the time, they are looking for a place close to vegetation, that's water and all of those things, because these are natural things, or a place. Oh, my sound is not clear. Wow. Is it better now? If you can hear me, just... Stage 1 is when the land has no owner. I need feedback. Is it better now? Is it better? Is it better now? Okay, thank you very much, Timile Kazim. Okay, so stage 2 is when a settler moves into the... Oh, thank you very much for the feedbacks. I think it was internet. It's internet. No problem. Let's manage it. Okay. So stage 2 is when settlers now move to the land. Then stage 3 is that those settlers now start farming. Right? I mean, most of us remember some of the stories we had where our great grandfather married 4 wives, 5 wives, 6 wives, and the reason why they married so much wives rather, is because they needed more labor to work on their farm, right? So they are expanding, and all of that. And those children they give birth to get married, they expand. That's why sometimes when you are buying from indigenes, you will realize that the same land, different family owns it, but those families too, they are related because it was probably their great grandfather that was the first settler. It can be the 10th generation, it can be the 4th generation, it can be the 5th generation. And see, it is, you might think that what I'm sharing with us is not important. See, may you not have court case. When it comes to land, you will learn family tree. Okay, so some of these things are very important. So in fact, when you are going into land transaction, for those probably individual you want to do land and all of those things, you will know what to teach people. You will know what to ask, questions to ask rather. You know what the questions to ask. Then after farming stage, that's stage 3. Stage 3 is the farming stage. Then you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is when it's moving from farming to house. It's in between. Because the family is now growing bigger. They now still need to build more houses. Because more settlers, more huts, more mud houses, all those things. But their major work is still farming, right? So that stage 4 is transiting stage. But stage 5 is when it now becomes a developing area. They are now selling the land to developers like us, to developers like LifePay, to developers, different developers, right? Because the place is transiting from farming to a development, because it now becomes what? A developing stage. Then stage 6 is when it has now become developed. I'm very sure there are areas you know that the place is developed, but there are still empty land, right? So it's a stage. But those land you can't use it for farm, for instance. You can't use it for farm because people are already living in that area, right? For instance, the estate I live, there are still a couple of land that are empty. Can we still hear me? If you can still hear me, just type 5. If you can still hear me loud and clear, just type 5. I want to be sure that you can hear me. Like I said, I want to move fast. Okay, thank you very much for the feedback. So stage 1 is no owner. Stage 2 is when settlers move to the land. Stage 3 is when farming starts. Stage 4 is when it moves to transition from farming to development. That's stage 4. Then stage 5 is when it moves to what? Developing. Then stage 6 is when it has fully developed. The last stage is stage 7, which is urban regeneration. And most of us see some of these things, we don't really recognize what it means. What that means variably means is that is a stage where people buy a house that has been built before. Maybe the house done 10 years, 15 years, but the value is in the land. So they demolish the house and they did what? They are now building a new structure on it. So that's basically urban regeneration. Okay, so all of these are still introduction, but let me now go into why we are here today. I believe we are learning something. I believe we are learning something. So if you are learning something and you are gaining something, type 2. If you are learning something and you are gaining something, just type 2. So now, depending on your client's objective, the investor can exit and enter land banking at any stage. Yes. So for instance now, somebody can meet a developer and buy. You can go to Omonile and buy. Of course, you know the problem you face. That's not, but I need to just break some of these things down. Okay, you can meet a developer and buy from an estate that is growing. You can meet and buy you can buy a farm estate. You can buy, just like we have some of these farm plots that we are, because some of these projects are not at the stage where you can start building, or some are at the stage of building. For instance, now the Ikorodu we are going on Saturday, and I want to encourage everybody to be there. Honestly, everybody needs to be there. I know that some of you guys are not in Lagos, but no problem. But try as much as possible for those that are in Lagos to register and be there on Saturday, okay? For instance, that place is a developing site. It's a developing project, right? So some measure of farming can still be taken there, placed there, while some people are already living there, and while some people are currently constructing. So it's a developing stage. So developing stage accommodates all these three. So depending on the objective of the client or investor in this case, he can enter at any of these stages that we have just shared. So you know the reason why I shared this right now. It can enter at any of these stages and still make money. Remember what we said. We need to develop what? An exit plan, a cash out plan for our what? Our investors. But before we do that, oh, you've missed a lot. I don't know. Maybe you just, Samuel, I don't know what we'll do, but we'll see what we can do, right? But before we develop that plan, there's still one more thing that we need to sort out. There's still what? One more thing that we need to sort out. You see, what is going to be the joy of, let me paint a scenario. I think there's a Mr. David here. There's, I think, Mr. David Olumakide or something. So let's say Mr. David, for instance, sold land to Mr. Samuel, right? And the land Mr. David sold to Mr. Samuel, Mr. Samuel has made like 200% profit from that land. And at the same time, he still owns a part of the land. If Mr. David brings another land to Mr. Samuel to buy, will he buy or not? I need a response. Will he buy or not? If you get the picture I just painted now, there are two people, Mr. David, a realtor, Mr. Samuel, an investor. So Mr. David, let's assume that Mr. David sold 1 acre to Mr. Samuel. Is a realtor, right? And Mr. Samuel, because the land has appreciated, he has been able to sell 3 plots. He still has 3 plots left, and he has made the money he used in buying the whole 6 acres from the 3 plots he sold. I don't know whether what I'm saying is making sense to you at all. Now, because he has made so much money from it, if Mr. David now say, okay, let's assume that it was Mowe he sold to him before, to Mr. Samuel before. Now he wants to now sell a pet to him. Will Mr. David be able to sell or not? I need a response. Chat room. I mean, just type yes or no. Yes or no. Yes or no. Yes or no. Will Mr. Samuel? Okay, thank you. Thank you, madam. He will buy, definitely, because he has made money from it. That's why we are here. We want a situation whereby he would. Thank you, Mr. Aderin Timothy. Thank you very much. Oh, yes. Mr. Akule, you are very, very right. It makes sense. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Samuel will most likely buy it. But yes, that's the truth. So the reason why some of us have not been able to sell again to the people that have bought from us is that how is the thing, that one they have bought before, how is it doing? What's the value? Imagine, I mean, we have realtors here that have sold Almond County in Ekpe, and some of those guys, I mean, they've sold to people that bought it when it was 5 million naira. Now Almond County Ekpe is selling for 12 million naira. Sell for 12 million naira. And I can tell you authoritatively, by January, I hope it will not be 20 million. Okay? Even that 12 million, you are still buying it at the early stage. Okay? So, where am I going right now? Is that even though your investor wants to cash out, they should not cash out emotionally. They should not what? Cash out emotionally. And I'm going to run through 7 things that they need to understand. Okay? What should guide your investors exiting land banking? That means before they sell at all, there are 7 things that you must factor in. 7 things. Very, very important. See, I'm rushing. I know I'm rushing. So that's why I advise you to write. 7 things. Number 1 is this. And I put some in form of questions and all of those things. Number one is, if the investment objective has been met, that's number one. As the investment objective, the reason why you did land banking, as the reason being met. That's number one. Now, number two is, if there is a stagnation at the growth rate. If, for instance, now you put money somewhere, and let's say you invest 10 million to buy 1 acre. I'm going to be using 1 acre as an illustration, or 10 acres for ease of calculation. Let's say you use 1 million to buy 1 acre somewhere, and 10 years later, you come back and they say 1 acre is 1.5 million. And I wonder, this thing is not growing at the rate of that I expected it to grow. Because before you buy, you see, investment is all about logic. It's not emotional, right? And as realtor, we need to know that. That's why it looks like we are doing something that looks like a master class now. I'm even going to give you just mathematical formula. Because sharing some of these things with your realtor, your investors, telling them that, see, in 5 years, this is going to be the value of this land I'm selling to you now. In 6 years, you can sell 1 out of it. It can even help you to sell more. Somebody can say, I want to buy 2. And later on buy 10. And that's the truth. That is the truth. Okay? So number one is that is the investment objective being met. Number two is that is there any stagnation? So the person just advise, see, this thing is not appreciated, because they will even see, as a realtor, as a consultant, they will appreciate you more. Why don't we exit this place and move to another place that I believe strongly will give you a better return? Okay? Then number three is that if the cost of maintaining the land is too high than the projected increase in value. Because, see, we need to just be realistic. I was talking to a realtor of recent, and the person was similar conversation we're having. In fact, coincidentally, I was developing this content when the person, he came to me and said, see, all this land banking you people are telling us to go and sell. What will the person be doing on the land? Now let us teach them what they will be doing on their land, and which I'm going to get into very, very shortly. Because a lot of people have land, the land is just empty, they are not doing anything on it, and they need to be maintaining the land. They need to be doing a lot on the land. The person said, I'm frustrated, my customers are complaining, they will get to the side, the whole place is bushy. See, as realtor, we need to be thinking. The commission you are being paid is not to dull your brain. You need to be thinking. Now, in fact, I feel like giving us assignment. I want to say, list all the people that have bought land from you, and go and ask yourself, what are these people doing on their land? It's not that all the time, we have promo, buy 1 get 1 free, or buy 5 get 10. No. There's a way you build relationship with people that they will even be one asking you, can I buy 1 more? That's why I said you need to develop a cash out strategy for your client. Time will not permit us. Let me just rush. Then number 3 is that if the cost, okay, number 4 is if the projected development, the projected development in that area is no longer as planned. Because there are indices to city development, there are indices to reason why land appreciates. If, for instance, now, let's assume that it took Dangote almost 11 years to build that refinery. Let's assume at some point in time, one government just came to power and said that Dangote can't build refinery in that place. You and I know that Ekpe and Ibejuleki will not appreciate the way it has appreciated. And let's now assume that you got an early or insider information about that stuff early enough, and you have somebody that has bought land there for maybe 1 million naira, and land is now selling for 5 million, and you are telling the person, don't worry, the land will still sell for 10 million. When that go to finish, I'm just using illustration right now, when that go to finish building the refinery, it is smart for you if you have that information and tell the person, Oga, let's exit now. Be like say Dangote no dey build refinery again. I'm just giving you an illustration. It might not be the perfect, but if you localize it to your own situation and circumstances, it makes a lot of sense. So number 5 is if government policies change. If government policy changes. Okay, then number 6 is if the investment is becoming too risky, you can exit. Then number 7, if a professional advise you to sell so that you can reinvest. If a professional advise you to sell so that you can reinvest. So having all of these now, let's now look at the last thing. I know I've rushed. I'll take question if time permits us to take question. I'm going to give us a formula for us to that we can. You see, this formula I developed it myself, so you can break your own down. And this formula is to help people, your customers that are into land banking and all of that. Okay, so when I was developing it, I was not thinking of individual land bankers. So my illustration is going to be 10 acres. Okay. Oh, who just dropped this now? I feel like giving this person money. Mr. Derito Timothy. Oh, fantabulous. Fantabulous. You did a good job. You did a good job. Thank you very much. Okay. Asokere Agata, I said I will appreciate the replay of this meeting on YouTube. It is rich and worthy of replay. Awesome. No problem. We'll work towards that. So now the reason why we are here. So there's a formula. Let's assume you have 10 acres of land. You as a realtor now, you sold 10 acres to your client or your investor. Okay. So because you see, and let's assume that 10 acres is 10 million naira. So this is your cash out strategy. Number 1 is this. There are 5 things you need to let them know. 5 things that must be done on that land. Number 1 is possession. Number 2 is occupation. Number 3 is documentation. This is where we usually stop before, but I've added 2 things. Number 3 is what is cash flow. Then number 5 is what development. Let me repeat. 1 is possession. 2, occupation. There are different ways you can take possession. No time to explain that one. Number 2 is occupation. Occupation is getting somebody to be on that land and be watching it for you. Number 4 is documentation. Get your deed, get your receipt, get your survey, get all those things. They are part of the documentation. There's nothing like one thing is documentation. You don't generate a CFO out of thin air. The CFO is taking its root from somewhere. Okay, so documentation is actually a bundle of rights. Then number 4 is cash flow. See, no matter how remote the land is, it must be generating cash flow for you. No matter how remote the land is, and you can help your customer. You are not just realtors. For instance, now on yesterday I was still at Ikorodu. I was still talking to some of the guys that were doing farming there. I was telling them, okay, so how is the business? How is the business? How is the business? What's the farming business looking like? Look at now, cassava is very expensive. And cassava is so easy to plant and easy to harvest. And you don't need, in fact, the guy was showing me a particular place that somebody planted cassava and they are not even weeding it at all. Just plant it, leave it, come back in 8 months. In fact, one of our members, somebody shared a story with me yesterday, very interesting. He's a staff and he planted cassava in his village and the cassava produced enough money to buy bike for him. When he shared that thing, I was just like, and somebody will tell some people are just, that's not where I'm going. Let me continue. Okay, so cash flow, it must be giving you cash flow. And see, cassava can literally survive in most soils. Don't need too many. The rate of germination is what is different, and you don't need too many headache. So that's why I'm talking about cassava. If you plant corn now, you need security to be watching after the corn, because people can come to your site, use your wood, the wood on your site to roast the corn. If you plant yam, they'll steal your yam. But cassava is often very easy to protect. Okay. Then the last one, which is number 5, is development. Then let's now go to the formula. After the person have done all of this or few of these things, then there is a formula which I call the 25-50-25 rule. Thank you very much, Mr. Timothy. You are following very well. Thank you so much. Okay, the 25-50-25 rule. So the 25% So as soon as the land let's say the 10 acres now, the 10 acres you bought it for 10 million naira. As soon as it appreciates significantly, appreciate by 50%, it depends on you right now. I won't give you the formula to sell, when to sell. So if, for instance, now let's say the land is now selling for the value of your 10 million naira land is now maybe 15 million, for instance. You can sell 25% of it. 25% of 10 acres is that's 2.5 acres. So you can sell 2.5 acres. That means you still have 7.5 acres. That money you sold, the 2.5 acres you sold, is for you to recoup majority of the money of that land, and you use it to do these 5 things I've just mentioned. The 5 things. If you have not done it, actually, but if you have done it, use it to perfect it, or if you have done part, use it to perfect it, because that 25% is to protect the remaining. I don't know whether we are getting this. The first 25% you are selling is to protect the remaining, right? So more or less like you have sacrificed a few so that the rest can survive. Okay, then you sell another 50%. Let's say now the price of the land now that you bought for 10 million naira, you know you have 7.5 acres now. So the 7.5 acres is supposed to be like maybe 10 million. Let's say it's 10 million for ease of calculation. Maybe now the price is 20 million, right? You sell half. That means you are selling 50%. Remaining what? 25. You are retaining 25%. So the 50% you've sold is for you to what? To go and buy another place. And this is where you are very, very important in this picture for the person. I met an agent, very unusual agent. Sorry, maybe today we are going to overshoot time a little bit. I met an agent. The guy does renting very close to where I stay. And the guy was having a discussion with me. I was asking him, he's an agent, but he usually sells a lot of properties and all of that. And I was like, who owns the property? You say, my Oga. Who owns this property? My Oga. Who owns the property? My Oga. Who is this, your Oga now? He said, actually, so he shared the story of how he met the Oga for me. And this was what he was helping his Oga to do. He's the one that will go and help the Oga to look for house. Sorry, to look for land, rather. The Oga is a private developer. He will make money from that Oga. After the Oga finish building the property to sell, he's still the one that will help the Oga to sell. I don't know whether you get this. So it's more or less like helping the Oga to develop a cash house, and he's making his money. He's making his money, the Oga is making the money. Right? So developing this, understanding it, and helping your investors to implement it is very, very important. So the remaining 25%, you keep it, you hold it. So in this case now, you've sold 2.5 acres, right? And you've sold another 5 acres. Now what you have left is what? 2.5 acres. Like I said, I'm using 10 acres. You can use 1 acre illustration. You can use 10 plots. You can do any illustration. Just understand the formula, right? And note, while you were holding all this land, the timeline can be 5 years, can be 10 years, can be 15 years old. Do you understand what I'm talking about? That can be the timeline. It can be 3 years, it can be 2 years. But what you have helped them to do is that you have helped them to recoup part of their cash. You see, there's nobody that will buy a land for 1 million, and he was able to is able to get cash flow from that same land and sell part of that land. What you are telling him is that that land is near liquid. I hope we get some of the things I'm sharing. And the remaining 25% that is left is what you will now hold on to. So you can use it to build a house, build anything, but make sure you are always holding on to something. And that 50%, how do you know where to sell? If, for instance, like I said, I didn't develop this for a one plot seller. If, for instance, now, there was a time, let's say, the person bought 10 acres in Muwe. By the time you recoup 50% from the money, you can decide to go and buy a father. You repeat the same thing in your father. You can decide to go and buy what? Papalanto. Buy Owode. What it means is that the person there's a continuous repeat purchase. And since you are just like the Bible talk about Joseph when he interpreted the dream for Pharaoh. So since you are the one that brought the formula, you are the one that will implement the formula. So since you are the one that brought about this formula, then you are the one that will implement this formula. Because of time, I think I'll just pause here. There are still so many things to share, but time will not permit me. I hope I did not scatter your brain. I hope I made sense, more sense, even if it's 1%.